Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are jumping right into a huge topic, something that's really at the core of any modern business, business intelligence. So how do companies manage to take these massive oceans of raw data and turn them into smart, decisive actions? Well, let's get into it.
And just so you know, all the great information we're covering in this explainer comes from the course materials over at the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology in Kenya.
So I want you to picture this. You're the captain of a ship, okay? And you're caught in a massive storm. The winds are whipping around, the currents are totally unpredictable. That, right there, is pretty much the modern business world. It's just a constant storm of information, and the real challenge is figuring out which way to steer the ship.
So before we get to the solution, let's just take a minute to understand the problem. Why is this storm getting so much stronger? And why is navigating it so absolutely critical for survival?
Okay, so let's break this down. You've got all these massive forces at play, like globalization, competition that's more intense than ever, and of course, technology that seems to change every 5 minutes. All of this makes it incredibly hard for managers to get a clear picture of what's even happening. Going with your gut feeling? Yeah, that's just not going to gut it anymore.
So, if you're a business lost in this storm of complexity, you need a tool to find your way, right? You need a compass. And that's exactly where business intelligence comes in. You can think of it as the modern, high-tech compass for today's decision makers.
At its heart, this is what BI is all about. It's not just about having a ton of data. No, it's a whole process. You have to gather it, then you have to make sense of it, and then, and this is the key part, you have to boil it all down into clear, actionable reports. It's really about turning all that noise into a clear signal.
So what is it looking for in all that data? Well, pretty much everything that matters. Are we gaining market share or are we losing it? What are our customers actually buying? And more importantly, why? What do they prefer? What are we as a company really good at? And where's the market headed next? Answering these questions gives you a massive, massive competitive edge.
You know, what's kind of funny is that this idea of using data to make decisions, it's not exactly brand new. BI is really just the modern supercharged evolution of older concepts you might have heard of, like management information systems or decision support systems. It's just way more powerful, more integrated, and frankly, more essential than it's ever been.
Okay, so we know what BI is, but what's it actually trying to achieve? Well, every good BI system is built on 3 fundamental goals. You can think of them as the 3 pillars of a good decision.
First up, timeliness. The data has to be current. I mean, yesterday's news isn't going to help you make today's decisions. It's that simple. Second, accuracy. The data has to be right, and it has to be complete. You've heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out. It's totally true here. And third, and this one is so crucial, acceptance. The people using the system, the managers making the calls, they have to trust the data. If they don't believe in it, the most expensive, sophisticated system in the world is basically useless.
All right, let's pop the hood and take a look inside the engine. How does a BI system actually work? How does it turn all that raw, messy data into these valuable, clear insights?
Well, the approach has really changed over time. It started with what we call traditional BI, which was basically just about collecting data and making charts to see what already happened. Then, things got smarter with integrated BI, which started to connect that data directly to business strategy. And now, we're getting into some really cool stuff with adaptive BI. These are smart, self-learning systems that don't just tell you about the past, they actually recommend future actions. But here's the thing. No matter how advanced the system gets, it almost always follows this fundamental 3-part framework. You can think of it as the life story of your data. First, it gets captured. Then, it gets stored somewhere. And finally, it gets accessed and analyzed. So let's zoom in on that very first step, data capture. This is where all the magic really begins, with the supercritical process called ETL. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. So first, you extract data from all over the place, sales systems, websites, spreadsheets, you name it, and you clean out all the errors. Next, you transform it, which just means you put it all into one standard format and apply your business rules. And finally, you load all that clean, standardized data into one central storage system. And that central storage system, that's called a data warehouse. Now, this isn't the same as the database that runs your daily operations. A data warehouse is more like a special library, built specifically for analysis and research. The data is organized by subject, pulled in from many sources, and it's kept as a historical record, so managers can look back and understand trends over time. So,
After all of that capturing, transforming, and storing, what's the big payoff? What's the ultimate goal that drives this entire pretty complex process?
You know, I think this quote from the source material just says it perfectly. It all comes down to this. The goal isn't just about the technology or the data. It's about empowering people to make better decisions. It's about getting the right information to the right person at exactly the right moment.
And that brings us to a final thought, a really big question for the future. As business intelligence becomes more powerful, more ingrained in everything we do, in a world where every single decision can be backed up by hard data, what role is left for human experience, for creativity, for intuition? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.